Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of 5 Minutes with Your Doc. I'm Dr. Jeff Teeter, and this is Titan Health Direct Primary Care. If you're looking for a new doctor, or if you want a doctor that can have a little bit more time to spend with you and that you can have direct access with, visit my website, which I have listed down below, and see what kind of benefits I provide here at Titan Health Direct Primary Care. As for this episode, we're going to talk about the cold, viruses, just the common cold. What are they? How do our bodies respond to it? And what are some things we can do to help alleviate the symptoms? Before we do that, I'd like to put a special shout out to my friends at Midmo Referral Alliance. They're a group of local business owners and professionals who have come together to pool resources and help make Jefferson City's small businesses strong and keep them that way. So thanks, guys. I've really enjoyed meeting with you. I look forward to meeting with you again in the future. All right, let's jump into the topic. All right, let's talk viruses. Now, I get a lot of common questions in the office. Things like, how long is this going to last? Why can't I have an antibiotic? And what can I do to help alleviate some of these symptoms because I feel horrible? Well, in order to understand the answers to those questions, I think we need to find out what is a virus? What does it do? How does it replicate? And so just a brief summary here, just to show you the size of a virus. They're very tiny little particles. Before you have an image here, and starting from largest and working its way down to smallest, you've got a human hair up here, and we go down in size to a salt particle, dust, pollen, red blood cells, and all the way down in the bottom area here. That's when you start getting into bacteria, and then even smaller than bacteria, viruses. So, how do they replicate? Well, here's the deal. They can't reproduce on their own. They require our cells in order to do it, or bacteria cells, but we're not going to talk about that. They can't reproduce on their own, so they hijack our machinery. So let's talk about that. What you see before you here is a human cell. In the center of that human cell is a nucleus, and there's all kinds of apparati around that nucleus in order to make and fold and export proteins. It's like its own little city. Well, what happens is the virus enters into that cell, is brought down into the center where the nucleus is, and it puts its genetic code in there. Whether it's RNA, DNA, double-stranded, single-stranded, who cares? It puts it inside there, and then it uses our transcription machinery in order to recreate more of the virus itself and more of its proteins that surround it and encapsulate it. It then sends that genetic material up to the cell membrane where all of these viral proteins are, and that buds off and goes and infects other cells. Well, it produces so much virus that it fills the cell eventually and causes the cell to burst. So it kills our own cells. Well, what can our body do to fight that? Well, as those proteins are being expressed on the outside of the cell, there are all kinds of cells like T cells, macrophages, dendritic cells, natural killer cells that can come along and scan the surface and say, that's a foreign particle, and kill the cell before it has a chance to pop and send virus everywhere. Another thing is B cells. B cells create antibodies to all the little stuff floating around out here. Okay, all the little viral particles, they can recognize those, bring them back to a lymph node and say, hey, let's make some antibodies to coat this thing. Once they're coated, other cells like macrophages can gobble them up, digest them, and spit out the parts. That's how our body attacks viruses. So now the question is, why aren't there very many medications to help kill viruses? Well, remember, they don't replicate. They aren't technically alive. Think of them as this super strong drone tank. You can shoot a bunch of holes through that tank, but if there aren't any vital components in there, as long as you don't hit the computer chip, it keeps going and it does its job. They're hard to kill. And if you start targeting the machinery that makes the actual unit, well, you're harming your own cell because it's using our own machinery in order to make more of itself. And you're not just affecting the cells that the virus is in, it's everywhere. And that could kill you. And that defeats the purpose of giving you a medication. Now, we have some viral medications that can target certain parts of the virus and how it replicates itself, but those are few and far in between. The best thing we can do is develop an immunity. And a way to develop that immunity before ever being infected is through vaccination. Well, let's come up front here for the rest of this and enjoy the fall colors while we talk about vaccinations. There are four main types of vaccinations, ways in which we make these things. Live attenuated, which means that basically it's been grown in a petri dish for a while and you choose the least virulent strain so that it doesn't really cause an infection, but your body mounts a response to it. You've got inactivated, which means that it's either heat or chemical killed. Then you have the subunits, which include recombinant and polysaccharide vaccinations, where the parts of the virus are broken up into their little components and put into a vaccine. Recombinant is we take the genetic code and we have something else completely make those proteins. And then you have the toxoid vaccinations. And over here you're going to have a list that you can take a look at to see which are which and what goes where and where influenza is and whatnot. Those vaccines are vital to prevent the continued spread and mass casualties associated with some of these illnesses that you see on your chart here. Yearly influenza vaccine, yes, it's hit or miss sometimes. We have to make guesses, estimates about what's coming our way. But even on the years when it isn't the most effective in the world, it still gives you a boost or at least a partial immunity to the influenza strain, and your illness should be less. Now, one of the common myths is, I got flu once I got the vaccination, and that's not the case. What actually happens is, your body has to mount a response to the vaccine. Otherwise, it isn't effective. And while your body is mounting up a response to that vaccination, it's sending chemical signals to the rest of the body that says, hey, we have a problem here. And that can cause mild elevations in your temperature and make you feel a little achy for a few days. Small price to pay for not having the actual influenza virus, or, as we know now, coronavirus. Beyond that, I get a lot of questions about, well, okay, what can I do? Well, most of the things that you can do all come over the counter now, which is fantastic. My go-to is Vicks, Dayquil, NyQuil, Cold and Flu Severe. It has everything you need in it to kind of help you get through this with the least aggravation possible. And there are some key medications. There are five of them that I'll talk about. One is Tylenol, acetaminophen. That comes in these cold and flu preparations. That's for fever and also for pain. Guafenicin. Guafenicin is Mucinex, and its job is to thin out the secretions, make them a little more watery and easy to manage, easy to drain, help you to drain. You have dextromethorphan in some of these concoctions, particularly the daytime one, and that's a cough suppressant. You've got phenylephrine, which is again in the daytime one. The phenylephrine actually constricts the small blood vessels in your nasal mucosa and oral mucosa to decrease inflammation and decrease the amount of secretions that are happening. And then for the nighttime concoctions, you get any one of a number of antihistamines. The one in Dayquil, NyQuil, is doxalamine. And it's just an antihistamine that makes you really tired, kind of like Benadryl. So what are some of the common mistakes that I hear patients talking about? What are some of the things that they do that really aren't helping with their disease? The first one is laying in bed all day long. Getting in the covers and not moving and sleeping all day long. Well, let me tell you, your immune system, its highway is the lymphatic system. And that lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like your circulatory system. It doesn't have a heart that's pushing that around. The only way that it moves is through the actions and pumping mechanism of your muscles. If you're just laying in bed all day, those crucially needed immune cells aren't able to circulate and get to where they need to be. So don't go kill yourself and run a marathon. Don't be overly active. But don't lay in bed all day. Get up, do things, move around a little bit. Help this to flow and get over it quicker. Another common mistake that people make is they crank up the heat. You see them wearing stocking caps and jackets and the heat's cranked up and they're overheating their body. Now it is true that increased temperatures can denature the viral proteins, but they can also denature our proteins. And if you have a hot enough temperature for long enough, it can kill you. And in children, there's such a thing as febrile seizures. If their temperature is too high for too long, they can have a seizure. So keeping your temperature down via Tylenol, which is why we have it, is important. Another thing that people do is they overly inhibit their cough. Give me something, I don't want to cough. I don't want to cough at all. And so they take meds left and right just to get rid of this cough. Well, the cough is there for a reason. Your body is trying to get these secretions from inside your lungs and move them up so you can either swallow them or cough them out. If you inhibit that, you're allowing it to sit down in your lungs and give bacteria a chance to cause a pneumonia in you. So there does come a point when you've been coughing for so long that it hurts too bad and that you're getting exceptionally tired, and okay, it's time to give your body a little break. But don't overly suppress your cough reflex. Allow your body to do what it needs to do. Guys, you shouldn't be smoking in the first place, but if you're sick, why are you going out and lighting up? If you have an upper respiratory tract infection, you've got enough problems. Don't add smoke to it. And poor nutrition. People stop eating. I get it. You don't want to eat, you feel sick. But try to get some good nutrients into your body because it is really taxing on your body to mount up this immune response. And you need some good nutrition to get yourself through it. And hydrate, hydrate, hydrate as much as you can in order to keep that fluid flushing through your body and flushing out the virus and keeping you hydrated to get over this quicker. And then the last thing, of course, is people don't get vaccinated. The vaccines are there for a reason. They do help. They've been shown to help now over 100+ years. They're useful. I know there's a lot of fear around them, and it's good to be educated about them. But vaccinate your children, vaccinate yourself. It's crucial. Well, guys, that wraps up another episode of 5 Minutes with Your Doc. This is Dr. Jeff Teeter with Titan Health, and it's a pleasure doing these with you. I get a lot of good responses. I have a lot of people requesting certain things, and if you have any requests or you'd like to see something, let me know. Give me a call. Send me a text. My information is listed here. Visit my website. Find out what I do, what drug primary care is, and if you have any further questions, call me. Thanks, guys.